What's up guys, this is Steve for Android at Night, and today what we've got for you is a review of the LG G4. They were kind enough to send this to me for review about a week ago, so I've been using it as my daily driver, and this is just going to be my quick thoughts on what I think on LG's new flagship for 2015, so I hope you enjoy. So the first thing that is an immediate change for me coming from a Nexus 5 is of course going to be the form factor of the G4. I've used the LG G3, my dad's got one, and one of my best friends has one, so I've sort of been around them for a while. And this is very similar to the G3. It does feel a little bit more solid and a little bit more premium, but it's kept some of the key design elements. For example, it's got the volume rocker and the power on the back. Very small bezels on the front. It has dropped the sort of alloy effect, so it's got a much more sort of 1+1 Nexus 5, Nexus 6 kind of vibe as far as like the minimal front goes. The LG logo on the front is maybe a little bit obtrusive, but I don't really mind it too badly, especially when the majority of manufacturers at the moment slap their logos on pretty much everything. The buttons on the back have actually changed a little bit from the original G3. They're a little bit easier to find with your finger, and having used this setup for a week or so, as I said, I really can't think about going back to using devices with buttons on the side. I think with a device of this size, then your finger just fits really nicely on the back. It's very easy to find, you can feel sort of the little nobule as it were, and you know exactly what you're pressing. Double tapping volume down will launch your camera, and you can tap again to take photos. This works really well for selfies because obviously you're holding the phone like that anyway. However, I have found that using it as sort of a normal camera mode is kind of difficult to get your finger there without obstructing the lens of the camera itself. One of the awesome things about having the volume and the power control on the back of the phone is with a bigger phone like this, if you wear tall skinny jeans, and I tend to wear like not skinny but sort of fairly skinny jeans and chinos, then I did find with my Nexus 5 often you put a song on, you put your phone in your pocket, and especially if you're like jogging or cycling, then the volume rocker would sort of nudge in your pocket. Having this on the back eliminates that issue, and I've had no issues with anything clicking when I didn't mean to click it. Like best things in life, the LG G4 is ever so slightly bent, and it's really quite nice. I thought this was kind of a gimmick when I first heard about it, but seeing it in person, there is something about having the screen ever so slightly curved towards you that means when you're consuming media, if you're gaming, if you're watching YouTube or Netflix or something like that, it is almost as if it's kind of like an IMAX screen. It's being sort of pushed towards you, and it's very slight and it's almost imperceptible, but it's definitely something I've noticed when I've been using, going back between this and my friend's LG G3. There's a definite difference as far as having that curved screen. On the subject of the screen, the IPS display on the G4 is absolutely stunning. It's very similar to the one on the G3, which is also a very nice display. The only issue I've had is under some sunlight it tends to wash out to a degree that I haven't really got with AMOLED or other screens like that. But that being said, the colour reproduction is really nice. That's one of the things now, most screens are so good, they're almost imperceptibly different. I mean, if you put this next to something like an S6, there is going to be some difference as far as colour representation and reproduction goes, but to be honest, this screen is good enough for pretty much all your daily use. One of the things I wasn't expecting with the hardware on the G4 is the quality of the speakers. They are super loud. They do tend to distort the bass slightly at very high ends, but that being said, for a phone speaker they're really great, especially as something like HTC with their new M9s, etc. They make a big deal about their boom sound speakers being one of like the big selling points. And obviously these aren't front facing, which means they're not quite as good if you're watching something or you're gaming sort of that way. You don't get the sort of immediacy of the speakers being on the front. If you use these for something like listening to music in the shower, which is what I do, I put a Spotify playlist on in the shower, this completely reduces the necessity to have a Bluetooth speaker. This is definitely loud enough to use to sort of like fill a small room with sound. And on that note, with my Nexus 5, quite often when people would call me and my phone was in my pocket, I'd feel the vibration or I'd hear the end of the ringtone as it sort of gradually built up. But with this, when someone calls you, there's no chance you're not going to pick it up. On the hardware side as well, I really like the position of the 3.5mm headphone jack. Having it at the bottom means you can drop your phone into your pocket that way. The speaker's at the top of your pocket, so even though it's very loud, it's made ever so slightly louder. It also means if you're using external charger, you can charge the phone and listen to music, and it will sit in your pocket perfectly nicely and both leads will come out the same end, or you can drop it in a bag or something like that. So you can charge the phone and use headphones at the same time. Okay, well, to the grocery list. Another thing I love about the G4 is the battery. The capacity is 3,000 milliamp hours, which is pretty ample. Coming from a Nexus 5, I've really enjoyed the upgrade. On a Nexus 5, I would never ever really get a day's usage. If I woke up at say 9 in the morning, by 8 in the evening it would probably be dead. This I've only had die on me once, and that was because I forgot to charge it overnight, so I've been getting sort of upwards of sort of 16 to 20 hours of use, and I think the screen on time is probably somewhere in the region of 3 to 3.5 hours. So I mean, it's not the best battery you can get, but it's definitely a step up from a lot of devices sort of from the last gen. And the fact that the battery is removable is, I think for me, always going to be a plus over something like the Galaxy S6 or the Galaxy S6 Edge or the HTC M9. The fact that I can just buy another one of these batteries off Amazon and they tend to drop to like 20 quid fairly quickly. I can just have that charging in my room, carry that with me, even sort of fit it in my wallet, put it in my backpack, and I'm never ever going to run out of charge. On the removable note, there is of course also a removable SD card, and as SD cards are so cheap now, and you can get sort of like 128 gigabytes fairly cheaply and easily, I think removable storage is sort of being moved away from, but I think it's still got its place, and especially with a phone with a camera this good, and a camera that gives you the functionality to shoot in RAW. I think having an SD card is going to be really useful for you guys who are going to be doing photography, and also just anyone who wants to store their music or their movies on here, because this is a really great device to consume your media. One of my favourite features from the G3 was the knock screen, which allows you to unlock the phone using a series of knocks. This is really awesome. It means you don't have to unlock the screen to do stuff. You can literally just tap on the screen, it will unlock, and it was one of my favourite features of the G3, so it's good to see they've carried that through to the G4. One of the cool things they've done with software throughout the phone is that it's very, very customizable. It's much more customizable than say an HTC skin or a Samsung skin. I'm still not fully convinced with OEM skins. I'd much prefer stock Android. But that being said, the LG one is pretty unobtrusive, and the amount of detail they let you actually customize kind of makes it feel just about okay. And there's a few things you don't get with stock Android. For example, in the power menu you can customize all of the options there, so this is going to be coming to us with Android M, with stock Android, but for now if you've got a G4 then you can customize that sort of on the fly already. We've also got a theme system baked in, which again I won't be using particularly. I'd much rather use something like Nova Launcher or Action Launcher or any of the other home screen replacements. But if you do want to stay on stock and you don't want to use a launcher replacement, there are going to be themes and sort of icon packs and stuff that go along with that, which you can get from LG's ecosystem. Also on the charging note, it has the new fast charge feature, which does seem to work. I can charge this using a Chromebook charger, and I can get it from like 0 to 80% within the space of like an hour, maybe slightly over. So you can charge this thing very, very quickly, and as I mentioned before, the battery is also removable. This is running a hecta-core processor, which is a pretty interesting one, as I didn't actually realise you could make processors in hecta-core. I thought you had to go from quad-core to octa-core to whatever the hell 16 is. But it seems to run really nicely. All the games I've thrown at it, it runs perfectly. Everything like video editing, photo editing, this is done without a hiccup. As far as the camera goes on this, it's pretty phenomenal. I can't really speak with any authority on cameras. I don't really know huge amounts about them, but I'll point you in the links in the description to some more detailed reviews specifically about the camera. But I can say that all the reviews I've seen say it's the best camera they've seen on a smartphone, and just the usage I've got out of it, just using it for everyday situations where generally the light isn't great and people are moving and stuff like that, it's really, really good. It's definitely a step up from anything I've used in the past. The function to shoot RAW is pretty cool as well. I do a little bit of photography for plays and things around university, so being able to shoot in RAW for that is really great because it means you can ping off the whole file, and you've got a lot of stuff to edit with, you've got a lot of information within that photograph. So if you are looking to do sort of top level photography and you don't have to carry around a DSLR, and you want to use a phone, I think at the moment the G4 is probably the best option for that. So that is my real quick run through of what it's been like to live with the LG G4 for a week. To summarise it all, I have to say I absolutely love the form factor. I think for a phone of this size they've made it feel very, very accommodating, and it's a very easy phone to use one-handed. It's not like with the Galaxy Note where I find myself having to use both hands sort of a necessity. This feels very much like it's pushing that phablet boundary, but it hasn't quite broken it. It's still very much a large phone. Fits very nicely in the pocket. I absolutely love all of the hardware. It feels brilliant. The cameras, as I said, are fantastic. The front-facing camera as well hasn't got much love because obviously the back camera is so good, but the front-facing camera, the selfie camera, is pretty fucking decent as well. Screen on it is great. Battery life, I really can't complain, and the fact it's removable is always going to be a plus. And the last thing that comes down to this is of course going to be price. I think you can pick these up for around £450 on pay-as-you-go, which sounds like quite a lot. When you compare it to the other flagships out at the moment, it's a pretty reasonable deal. The design of the phone I got is this charcoal grey one. It has a kind of slightly diamondy pattern on the back, but it's a very subtle one. You can of course get this in different textures and colours. There's like leather backs and stuff like that. I believe all the leather backs are real leather, so if you're vegan or of like an ecological persuasion or an environmental persuasion or whatever, then you're probably going to be slightly limited in the ones you can choose. But I have to say I really do like this grey design. I would never have chosen it myself, but I think it looks really, really nice and smart. And obviously I am slightly biased by the fact that LG did send this to me for review, but I have to say I've used LG for the last couple of years with the Nexus 5. I've had a lot of exposure to the G3, and I know my dad and one of my best mates absolutely love them. I have to say this has really, really impressed me on pretty much every front. The only real complaints I could have with it are software complaints and what LG has done with their skin. But again, even saying that, for an OEM skin, it's not that obtrusive, and it works quite well, and it's very easy to drop something like Nova Launcher, an AC display, and a couple of other apps to really customize your experience. So I'm going to be doing a top 10 app list of just the apps I think you should be installing on your brand new G4 if you do decide to pick one up. For my Nexus peeps, I know a lot of you guys are still on the Nexus 5. I might do a more detailed comparison between this and the Nexus 5, but I will say for now, I think if you're looking to upgrade, I think the LG G4 is going to be a pretty great option. The last thing I didn't mention, which I probably should as it's a phone, is call quality. The call quality on this has been really, really good. I didn't realise how bad the call quality on my Nexus 5 was until I used this, but it's super crisp, super clear. And yeah, again, something else that I can't really fault. So I hope you enjoyed that review, guys. Please comment below if there's anything else you would like to know about the LG G4, and I'll be doing some more videos obviously in the next couple of days to do with the device. Please subscribe if you haven't seen me before. You can follow me on my social media things with the links in the description. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!